Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. In this video, in this recording, I'm going to be talking about the mind-body, which is the inside principle, and the earth, which is the outside principle, being ultimately one being, which is the I am. I'm going to give us a minute or two, let some people join on. If you think this video is going to resonate with you, or you like the message, please feel free to share this out. I'm blocked until April from sharing my content into groups, so the best thing that can be given to me is a share. I'm going to start this video by reading two small pieces from two books. One is from Sri Nisargadatta Maharaja, from this book, I Am That. Kind of thick book, but if you do not have this book, I would highly recommend that you get this book. I'm going to read a small portion of this, one page, and then I'm going to read a small portion from this page, or this book. Who Am I? From Sri Ramana Maharshi. Just to help better connect the mind-body, the false self, with the outside world, which ultimately, what we call the outside world, is only the mind-body traveling through its own field of consciousness, projecting its own awareness onto this field, which acts as a screen. So for people who are seeking to change their earthly experience, for people who are trying to take the next step in spirituality, for people who want to get to that next level of consciousness, for people who are awaiting an answer or a shift to happen, when you are under the assumption that Earth is outside of you and Earth is a location of place and position, you put the shift and the ascension into the Earth outside of you, and you wait for the masses and the Earth to awaken. And this is what the teachings of Ramana Maharshi is the fact of there is no other. All is reflection of you, and you can only ultimately see yourself. So the earth is not the problem. What you think is going on in the earth is not the problem. And I covered this in my last video about not falling for the program from newspapers, online, social media, YouTube. If the content, the people, the information that you are immersing yourself into is not directly improving the quality of your life, it is a charade being disguised behind the excellence of knowledge. But knowledge does not become wisdom until it begins to impact your life for the better. Knowledge is the serpent coming and bearing you beautiful gifts because they sound so beautiful. It's articulated so well. But there is only one truth, and it's expressed in creation already happening. It cannot be expressed again. The reason we have this vessel and apparatus is to experience ourself through the indescribable. What we cannot feel or describe, we feel. The sensation and feelings which we experience through this body is us experiencing our eternal self. that couldn't be known otherwise. So this is from chapter 7, I Am That. As long as the mind is there, your body and your world are there. Your world is mind-made, subjective, enclosed within the mind, fragmentary, temporary, personal, hanging on the thread of memory. So the questioner asks, there are very interesting books written by apparently very competent people in which the illusoriness of the world is denied. According to them, there exists a hierarchy of beings from the lowest to the highest. On each level, the complexity of the organism enables and reflects the depth, breadth, and intensity of consciousness, without any visible or knowable culmination. One law supreme rules throughout. Evolution of forms for the growth and enrichment of consciousness and manifestation of its infinite potentialities. And Nisargata responds with, this may or may not be so. Even if it is only so from the mind's point of view. But in fact, the entire universe exists only in consciousness. While I have my stand in the Absolute, in pure being consciousness arises. In consciousness, the world appears and disappears. All there is me. All there is mine. Before all beginnings, after all ends, I am. All has its being in me, in the I am that shines in every living being. Even not being is unthinkable without me. Whatever happens, I must be there to witness it. So the questioner asks, why do you deny being to the world? And Nisargata responds with, I do not negate the world. I see it as appearing in consciousness, which is the totality of the known in the immensity of the unknown. What begins and ends is mere appearance. The world can be said to appear, but not to be. The appearance may last very long on some scale of time, but very short on another. But ultimately, it comes to the same. Whatever is time-bound is momentary and has no reality. So the questioner asks, surely you see the actual world as it surrounds you. You seem to behave quite normally. And Nisargata responds with, this is how it appears to you. What in your case occupies the entire field of consciousness is a mere speck in mine. The world lasts but for a moment. It is in your memory that makes you think that the world continues. Myself, I don't live by memory. I see the world as it is, a momentary appearance in consciousness. And so the questioner asks, in your consciousness? And he responds, all idea of me and mine, even I am, is in consciousness. Now I'm going to read you a small page from Who Am I? From Sri Ramana Maharshi, sorry. So, if we set aside all thoughts and see, there will be no such thing as mind remaining separate. Other than thoughts, there is no such thing as the world. What is the nature of the mind? What is called mind is a wondrous power residing in the self. It causes all thoughts to arise. Apart from thoughts, there is no such thing as mind. Therefore, thought is the nature of mind. Apart from thoughts, there is no independent entity called the world. In deep sleep, there are no thoughts, and there is no world. In the states of waking and dreaming, there are thoughts, and there is a world also. Just as the spider emits the thread of the web out of itself and again withdraws it into itself, likewise the mind projects the world out of itself and again resolves it into itself. When the mind comes out of the self, the world appears. Therefore, when the world appears, the self does not appear. And when the self appears, the world does not appear. When one persistently inquires into the nature of the mind will end leaving the self. What is referred to as the self is the Atman. The mind always exists only in dependence on something gross, physical in parentheses. It cannot stay alone. It is the mind, ego in parentheses, that is called the subtle body or the soul, jiva. So I'm going to read this part one more time. When the mind comes out of the self, the world appears. That's a huge sentence and statement in itself. And this is from this book here, Who Am I? From Ramana Maharshi. When the mind comes out of the self, the world appears. This is what I was trying to talk about in my videos the other day, about how the ego, the false self, the mind body, is what is seeking to place blame at the problems existent in the world. It's the mind body, the ego, the false self, that will try to name the most disgusting, hideous, heinous, and just nasty crimes of the world and say, these are not my crimes, I have not done any of these things, so I will never take responsibility for those actions, they're not my own. But taking responsibility does not mean you are saying, I have done these things, but you are acknowledging, I am that I am. If all is one ultimately, I am the light, dark, inside, outside principle, where the two are not two in fact, but one. Which means you and me dissolve into one. And you and me are the only people in existence on this earth who are acting all these horrible things out. So it's the false self that is looking for someone, something, to blame for the problems, the negative, the darkness. But if all is one, ultimately everything goes back to the two words of I am. And when you say I am, you are speaking of yourself. It is our true self that should take responsibility. And that's what I mean by this. Responsibility for your experience in the world. This is why I told people in my last video, do not buy into the program that is being given to you. This distorted view of the earth does not exist. And it's not just the fact that these stories, these conspiracies, these people, these elite groups, it's not even the fact that they don't exist. It's the fact that the entire earth itself does not exist. And when you say this to the average person, they will think you have gone mad and lost your mind, when you've in fact found it. But if the earth does not even exist, and the earth is not even representation of a place, then you have to ask, what is the earth? Where is the earth? If it's not even a location, and it's an illusion, that does not mean that it is fake. What it means is the reality and dream are one and the same. What's dreamt and the dreamer are one and the same. So I will use what's going on right now in relevance and as a reference here to the world that I'm talking about. I said in my last video, the indigenous tribes that live in forests and that meditate and that take medicines, plant medicines, they don't exist in the same world that we do. And what this proves is that there is no absolute earth. There is no absolute experience. Really ponder this in your mind for a moment. I will say, and I'm just going to say the most relevant name to date right now, just to be relevant and to stick with the times. Donald Trump is the most talked about man on the web right now. You could not say Donald Trump's name to anybody in society and have them not know who you're talking about. It would be unheard of to not know who Donald Trump is. But if you were to take yourself to the indigenous tribes over in the forests and speak to them about Donald Trump, they would ask you who you're talking about. Who's this man who you're talking about? Who is this? And this would probably blow the minds off of people existent in this society. How can you be alive and not know who this man is? What this directly proves is Earth is an experience we are creating and existing in within ourselves. The news, the newspapers, YouTube, social medias, this is all a program of mind. It's all a program beyond the tangible reality of here and now. And how many of us are on our cell phones all day scrolling through this, while this device is telling us what is going on in our realities. Our head is not in the reality, our head is in the phone telling us the reality itself. We're not experiencing and interpreting what is. We're being told what is. We're being told programs from online websites and videos that preach to you that there is a government that is ruling the earth. There is no earth. And the government you speak of, all you know is that all you can refer to them as is they. Well, let me tell you something. They is just a word you have created, a deity you have created to place blame upon. You have created the word they so that you can dump off all your problems, all the things you do not like of your experience onto the word they. Every word we create, we have created for a purpose to serve our own illusion or our own false self. This is why creation has chosen to hide the great secret behind the ego, the mask. The ego is what is defending your illusion, is what's keeping you in your own way. It wasn't a mistake or a coincidence that we have chosen to keep ourselves hidden behind the mask of ego, because the ego is very persistent in denying it is what it seeks. And the reason it never finds what it seeks is because you are not the form. The ego seeks what it is beyond form, but in doing so it must lose form. And the ego would not recognize itself without form because the ego is the form itself. And that's why what the ego most seeks, it most fears, because in order for the ego to find what it most seeks, it must destroy itself, lose the form. It must give up the form to find itself beyond form. You are what you seek. So the word they is an illusory deity we have created and put into this world to back the illusion that there is a corrupt system out there. The word alien is a deity, the human awareness, because we're not a human being. We are one awareness that becomes whatever it convinces itself it is. We, however, have been told and told ourselves we are a human being, and so this has become a collective agreement that we are just human. And so the word alien is a deity that has been created to represent the being outside of a human. But remember, all is one. So what the human has done is created a deity for itself beyond itself. And what do you think the human has also done with God? It has created a deity for itself beyond itself. We have not made it past a human awareness, and so we cannot recognize the alien in ourself, the God in ourself. All the deities we are creating, both good and bad, are the self. The only difference is, are you filtering it through the false self or the real self? And 9 times out of the 10, the answer will be the false self. The false self, the ego, creates these deities. And again, it's not ego's fault. As Eckhart Tolle says, the ego is not to blame, it's just unaware. It's just unconscious of itself. So it's not that you should be harsh with your ego, you should be hostile with your ego. Understand, you have hidden this secret of creation behind the mask of ego so that the ego could so heavily defend and guard this secret. And this is the secret that so many people are waiting for, but the moment they hear that they must claim responsibility, they're instantly disassociated. They don't want it. We want the comfortability. We want there to be a system to place our hope and faith in. We want there to be a deity to help control and manifest everything we want. We want there to be something other than the self. That way, the self can avoid all responsibility. But the most powerful action you can take is claiming all responsibility. It's very revealing when you exist in nothing but problems and all you have done is point the finger outside of you. This is revealing something to yourself. When the problem is in every person, in every situation, in everything, everywhere besides yourself, you have revealed that you're pointing the finger all outside of you and have yet to turn your own mirror on itself. Many people are awaiting, they think, because again, we all are in an illusion to some degree. And that's why it's best to avoid the mind. Go back into the inner child heart space. Because the mind is disguised as knowledge. Knowledge only becomes wisdom when it improves the quality of your life. What knowledge does is it takes you from the eternal moment of your true self. It's the ego that is persisting in the illusion of a reptilian race, of an alien race, of a supreme race that's controlling and ruling this earth, that's governing this earth. This is ego. And this is the best part, is you'll find that the people who are immersed in the shape of the earth, who are immersed with exposing government conspiracies, on the surface, these people may appear happy and that they are confident in what they know, but they have yet to taste the eternal elixir of truth that does not need to be defended, debated, debunked, solved, anything. This is when you have arrived at truth, when you have no spoken word to define what you are experiencing. The very sensation, the very feeling you are taking in through your own senses is the very indescribable property of your being. The purpose of this body is to take in ourself through these senses. When I'm experiencing the sense of love, the ego will try and hold on to the feeling of love, will try and hold on to the one it loves, but this is the false self, the one that is bound to appearance disappearance, and so it thinks it has to hold on to the moment, to the feeling, to the person. This is not the case. You're just using the bodies, the one you love and the self that you love, to establish and to experience that bond of love. The bond of love that you're sharing with another is the bond of the one sharing its own love with itself. When two people fall in love, it is the one falling in love with itself. Soulmates, twin flames, is the one falling in love with itself. Everything we know is out of love. And this is the thing. We're given 3 eyes. 3. We have 2 to look and 1 to see. Now the 2 to look are attached to my physical body, where I am bound to this one position. So I can look into space and look into the stars, but the 2 eyes that look will forever be bound to my body, right here fixed where I am at. And so I have 2 eyes to look and 1 eye to see. So I can look into the stars for my answer, into the universe, into all these things for my answer. But the only thing you are seeing is the eye of the mind. When you look into space, you are looking into the depths of your own awareness being projected onto a screen. That screen is your own body's energy field. You see the energy field? The energy field around the being. You are the being in the middle, projecting your consciousness onto that field, which is the tangible world around you, which is the others you experience. But as Ramana Maharshi says, there are no others. The earth comes into being when your mind comes into being. And so this is what I want to get at. Go back to the birthing of yourself in a form. You began as pure awareness. This means no spoken language, no self to know. It's this awareness that we, as the ego, referred to as all-knowing, as source, as God, as the supreme, as Brahman. Whatever name you want to call it does not matter. It must be realized that this source of awareness, what we began as, the absence of a name, the absence of a self, is what has established concept of God, of Brahman, of the Supreme Being. We only know of our immortal selves because of our mortal self. In order to know what I am, I must know what I am not. So many people are stuck on the word of God, the name of God. Go back before all of this into pure awareness, and you will unravel the knot back home into yourself to realize that every name, every person, every situation, everything began at that root of awareness. Who Tyler is today began as awareness. Who Richie was back then began as awareness. Who Kathy was back then began as awareness. Who Jacqueline was back then began as awareness. Who Nathan was back then began as awareness. We have become this identity of form. We have become this position and place of earth through awareness. We aren't anywhere and we aren't anyone. The who and the where and the what and the why and the how has all been brought about through the mind body. All of these things have started from awareness. So the story of our entire civilization as a human race is going back to our awareness as a collective whole, collective consciousness. And that's why I say we have taken on the role of the human being, because it was said one day, this awareness told itself in a body it was a human. And so this was expressed outside of that one human and was spread so far out that it became a collective agreement. This is how knowledge gets put out and released and shared amongst so many of us. And that's why there's so many conspiracies, and that's why these people who believe in conspiracies say, well, how does nobody else see this? We're seeing an increase of all these people sharing conspiracies, and we're wondering, how are more people not seeing this? How are more people not awakening to this? And this is what I want to tell you. I saw a picture of someone, I'm not going to say the person's name because I'm not wishing to bash anyone or anyone's beliefs, but I saw a person who shared probably 30 pictures of Obama, Trump, government, all these government pictures. And in the pictures, they've taken the time to circle things in the pictures, circle hand gestures in the pictures, circle these small little symbolism and things and hand gestures of things that you are seeing. And what they're saying is the hand symbol's an Illuminati symbol, it's a Freemason symbol, it's this, it's that. And their mind is connecting everything they are seeing to Illuminati, Freemasonry, government, enslavement, blah, 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 blah. Again, you have two eyes to look and one to see. So these are not seeing what is actually there. It's your mind that is only seeing itself. If you convince yourself and believe in the illusory world where Illuminati, Freemasonry, and all these things exist, when you look at these government pictures and all these things, all your eyes are going to see is what your mind has already believed and told itself. So when you're looking at pictures and you're saying, oh, look at his hand symbolism, look at that symbol, look at this, look at that, you're only seeing your own awareness. Again, Ramana Maharshi says, there are no others. That's the hardest part about spirituality and oneness, is having to integrate that oneness into the mind-body being. What this means is the mind-body has nowhere else to look to change its experience but within its own self. Me. I must change what I don't like here, because there are no others. Oneness is the practice of that. Claiming responsibility, having a higher understanding and awareness to know. I can point fingers all day and blame you, blame they, blame him, blame her, Freemasonry, Illuminati, all these words. Again, unravel your knot of words and description and cleverness. Go back to your simplistic awareness before you knew all these things. And what was the world to you? Your inner child saw the world as a playground, as a canvas to paint itself onto. How that all changed the moment we were fed these programs online, programs on YouTube, programs of everything, once again, telling us what our reality was. And it's so funny, the fact that these people who feel they have awakened, they will bash the news, they will bash the newspapers. But what you're bashing about the people following the news is what these people are doing with YouTube videos. Again, if the YouTube videos were helping improve the quality of your life, that's different. But when all you're researching is a shadow government, and this conspiracy, that conspiracy, and this and that, and beings that are reptilian, or this, it's every single thing but what is happening in front of you now. And again, the belief is the hardest part to escape. You have convinced yourself you are this mind that speaks. You have convinced yourself you know anything at all. and that is ego. The most humble realization is I know nothing, because the moment is the only truth that there is. The one who knows anything thinks they know something, and so they do not exist in the now. They have dipped their toe into truth. But the reason they still search for a truth is because they avoid that eternal now. They don't want the charade of games to be over. They don't want the illusion to be over and just accept now is what I seek. What is in front of me here and now is all that I seek. The ego wants to complex it, wants to make it more complex than it actually is. The ego needs an answer beyond look within. The people who think that they're looking for themselves in truth are only looking for themselves beyond themselves. And that's why I said, the word shadow government, the word they, when people describe government, they use the word they. We have to expose them. We have to expose what they're doing. We have to expose them. They. They, them, is a deity you have created for yourself, which is still unaware of itself beyond itself. And so you buy into this deity and you think it's real. Same with the alien, same with God, and same with any other spoken word that has come out of your own awareness. Every word that we've ever spoken has come out of the same awareness, but the mind paints a different picture of the word. This is why you give 100 people a recipe, all 100 of them are going to make the same dinner, but different. Different mind. This is why 100 people can watch the same movie and have a completely different understanding or interpretation. A different mind is at play. Again, you are only seeing your own mind. 2 eyes to look and 1 to see. And that's why this is called the third eye. Because these are your 2 eyes which are bound to the body, and this is your limitless eye which can see the all, which is all-knowing, the all-seeing eye. This is the only thing you are seeing with, and that is why it's the all-seeing eye. That's why when you see the all-seeing eye, and it has lines radiating out of it, that represents creation. Let there be light, spoken word, boom, an explosion, the Big Bang, represents the radiating of creation. Or the projection, all coming from one singular eye, the third eye. And so that's why I say earth, the word earth, does not represent location or the where. The who, the what, the where, the why, and the how have come from straight awareness. So what this means is that when we birth, we are aware that we are existent. We're not aware of what we are. We're not aware of who we are. So again, all those birthed by awareness. We become aware that we are existent, and then the who, the what, the where, the why, and the how arises from awareness. So the who becomes Tyler. Tyler is self-aware. Well, what? What is Tyler? Tyler, what is Tyler? A human being. So there goes the what. Where is Tyler? I'm on Earth. Isn't it obvious? This is called Earth. So the where is taken care of. I know where I'm at now. Why? Well, because God. God said so. The why is taken care of. How? Again, God. God, let there be light. How? All taken care of, you see? Who, what, when, where, why, and how. All solved through awareness. But again, it is the false self that begins creating these things for itself. This is the false self birthing into a form. Once you are aware of this false self that has birthed, that has appeared, you will be aware that it is this same false self that must die, that must disappear. And at last you will come to what you actually are. You must realize the identity is going to die. And if you are lucky, you will realize it while still in the body, to realize what is left. Because what is left after you have left the body is the only truth, is the only thing that is. It's the true self of one, which is no self at all. The awareness. Through awareness, you become self-aware of the who, the what, the where, the why, and the how. And so this is what I want people to be aware of. It's not as absurd as it sounds when you actually are honest with yourself and unravel the knot back home. It's not as absurd as it sounds. What told you the earth was a physical place? What told you this? Ignore the program. Again, I'm not asking you to refer to the program. And when I say the program, I mean the outside information. Let's just pose the idea that you have no TV, no cell phone, no information to be brought to you. Let's say you were born here and had to use your own judgment to interpret your experience here. What would tell you the earth was a physical place, other than my feet are standing here, I can touch it? What makes this a place of location of where I am? Because the truth of it is, nothing has made this where. The program has made it where we are. NASA, governments, right? But again, it's all one. It's all you. So go back to you. How do you take NASA and all of this and apply it to me? NASA is the ego. Is giving the ego comfort. Because remember, the ego is defending the illusion of the who, the what, the where, the why, the how. NASA is supporting that illusion that they know where we are, who we are, why we are, where we are. They're defending the ego's illusion. Again, a program telling you who, what, where, why, how. So when you forget the program and you're honest with yourself, you can get to the bottom of your own BS. Because we're all fooling ourselves, we're all tricking ourselves through ego, just a matter of what degree. We're all persisting in the fact that we aren't God when we are. That's the ego's job, is to present the fact that it is not God. It's everything but. That's why you have hidden yourself behind ego. So when you go back into awareness, who told me the earth was a location of where, of position? Because we all were told the same thing from the program, NASA and schools and all these things. We were told NASA is a corporation to help show us pictures of Earth, study Earth, and ultimately it's showing us where we live. It's giving you the location, the position in space, where you are. But if you were to erase all that, the only thing you would have left is awareness. And this is where you will be able to realize awareness is what looks around, is what self-analyzes, but again, it's not self-aware yet. We birth into a form as a baby, we look around, we analyze, we don't self-analyze because there is no self established yet. The who is not known yet, because we're still only awareness, the baby. So the baby begins analyzing, looking around, and formulating some small talk, language, and through there is memory. And this is where you can begin to say, this feels this way, I am feeling this chair, and you begin to slowly self-analyze what the self is. This is where the self, the who, slowly begins to be discovered and begin to be brought into existence. It's the who that arises from awareness. It is awareness that has told me I am Tyler. It is awareness that has told me I am a human. It is my awareness that has told me I live on earth. It's my awareness that has told me the earth is location. The earth, the word earth, is representative of location, place. So if I was honest with myself, I could say before there was an earth, before there was a Tyler, before I knew anything, or I thought I knew anything, before all this junk that I've stored in my brain, I was the all-knowing awareness that needed to know nothing, needed to formulate nothing, because my very existence was the expression of the all-knowing. And this is what we don't realize as the seeker. We're seeking an answer that is indescribable. There's many people that say there can't be a holy book, a holy Bible, because as long as it's a written word by man, it's not the truth. We want something more godly, more heavenly. Again, you can look into the mirror, you can look at your own hand and overlook the all-knowing answer right there. If you have overlooked yourself, your own brilliance, your own impossibility, you have already overlooked the all-knowing expression of one. The reason you cannot describe the truth, the reason we think the truth cannot be put into words or written like man, is because the only truth is an indescribable sensation which can be felt and experienced through the body itself. So what that means is my expression as this body is the very all-knowing truth that I am trying to put into words. I am trying to describe my own being. And this is why the truth that we all know deep down in our heart cannot be brought to the surface, cannot be brought to the light. What you are trying to use to describe yourself is the very answer. Your awareness is the answer you seek, but your awareness hides behind your physical eyes. And that's why you're marvelously tricking yourself. You're looking with these and not with this. You've convinced yourself you're looking at the world as it is, but there is no world as it is. You are only seeing yourself. And this information isn't for everyone. I fully acknowledge that. This is not for everyone. It's just a fact. It's not for everyone. But the only reason we have human senses is to experience our own self. So it can be said, when I touch someone else's skin, I feel their skin, but I will only feel the sensation of myself, of my own skin. So if I say, she has a soft skin, I have never felt her skin. I have only felt my own sensation from her skin. But again, I'm only feeling myself. The sensation I feel is right within myself. Therefore, I feel myself, not her. It's the same with all senses. When I look at you, I don't look at you. I don't look at what you are, at what you think you are. I paint my own picture of who you are. I paint my own self of who you are. When I judge you, I'm not judging you, I'm only seeing myself. I can only see myself. So what I don't like in you is only what I don't like in me. So let's just say you see somebody who's extra happy and chipper and smiling, and you're just like looking at them like, ugh. Look at it as a mirror. Think on the next level. What about this person being so happy and marvelous and chipper do you not like? And then think about it. It's a mirror. I'm not actually seeing you as you appear. I'm seeing myself. So what this tells me is, I am jealous. I don't like that you're so happy because I do not have this in myself. And I'm just giving an example here. What I don't like in you, for no reason at all, is revealing something in myself. There are no others. The problem is not the earth, it is you. But it's not your fault, you are just unaware. Apply it to the sense of hearing. Those listening to me, you may think you are hearing my voice, but you are only hearing right from your own ears, which are right here with yourself. So while you will have lived and died and heard many people, heard many sounds, you've only heard the sound of your own ears. And that's why I can have 1,000 people watch my video, and I could have only 10 people say, wow, he actually helped me out. Because you're not in fact hearing me. I am not an absolute. You are not an absolute. We have this idea of ourselves that this is how I look, this is how I am, this is how I'm going to present myself to the world. But realize, when you go into the world, people are looking at themselves in you, not you. When someone has a problem with you in the world or does not like you, 9 times out of 10, it's their problem. They are seeing themselves in you. Do not take their problem in as your own. This is when it affects you. And that's why I don't get offended anymore. I can't be offended. Who am I going to defend? There's nothing here. I've seen beyond Tyler. There's nothing to defend. So I can't be angry, for one, but for two, I have a higher understanding to know if someone is angry at what I am saying, they're literally only hearing their own awareness. If what I say frustrates you, you're frustrated with your own level of awareness. So I can't be offended. If you look at me and think I'm ugly, I'm stupid, this, that, I can't be offended. You're seeing yourself. Such a simple practice. That's why we have senses, to take in ourselves. This is where the term, the universe experiencing itself, has come from. Yes, you appear outside of me. Yes, you appear as something completely different, but you have to. If we all look the same, we'd all be one person, and for that, why would we be many? It's through being many, we are the one taking in itself, as no self at all. It is through a established self that we take in our self, which is beyond a self. Complete paradoxical. And that's why I say, the self that we seek is the self which is beyond form. And that's why a lot of us that are seeking with these eyes right here, the temporary eyes, will never find what they're looking for. Because again, these are to look, and this is to see. The third eye is the most powerful eye. Your physical eyes will not see something that your third eye is not ready to see. And it's just that simple. This is why there are people convinced the earth is flat. You're not seeing with your physical eyes. You're seeing with your mind. And what's funny is the flat earth community's whole argument is, look with your eyes, it's flat. My friend, you're not even using these. This is the only eye you've ever looked with. Again, when you look beyond into the horizon or anywhere into earth, when you look outside of these eyes, realize you are only projecting the third eye onto the picture, onto the screen you are seeing. Again, we have these senses to experience ourselves. When I look at you, I'm not seeing you for what you think you are, I'm seeing you for what I think you are. Well, it's the same with the mind. The mind is the sixth sense. My physical eyes will not see what my mind, my third eye, is not ready to see yet. And this is what so easily explains why there are so many theories of the earth, of where we live, of who we are. But what we don't realize is instead of turning this to a form of debate, confrontation, he, she is right, wrong, that's ego. Ego wants to be right, wrong, praised, put on a pedestal. No. We should be acknowledging, admiring, listening, and loving every single expression which is speaking their own truth. It does not matter what it is, how berserk it is to you. The reason we are not embracing everyone's truth is because we have not realized the God in ourselves. When you realize this, you have reached a level of oneness and applied it. This means wherever I look, not only am I not alone, but I am looking at God itself. This means I could be in this room empty as hell. Nothing is in this room, you could say, but myself. Right? But when you take the application of oneness, this wisdom of oneness, and you actually apply it to your everyday existence, I could sit in this room for months. No cell phone. Nothing. Because you see an empty room here. I acknowledge the limitless everything in every inch of space that you would call empty here. See, there is beauty and divinity in being nothing. But the mind body, is what touches this word of nothing, and it paints it dirty. It paints it scary. It paints nothing as the absence of something, when this is not the case. Your mind is touching what you think nothing would be. Darkness, emptiness. Nope, that's not in fact what nothing means. Your mind is painting this picture for you. Once the mind touches something, it dirties it. Because you're painting the picture for it. Every single word we're using is being expressed through the single moment of right now. Every word is happening right now in this moment. One word. When you can go anywhere, be surrounded by anyone or no one, and still see God, and when I say God, I mean the one, the formless one that speaks through form, you have made it home. The greatest part is you are already home. But again, you are unaware that you are home. You are unconscious that you are home. But we're all home whether we know it or not. It's just a matter of seeing it. Do you see yourself as being home? Because if you don't, you will continue to try and walk or seek your way back home, which instantly separates you from being there. Meditation is very much useful. But if you're meditating to make it back home, it's pointless. Psychedelics are useful. But if you're using psychedelics to make it back home, it's useless. What the psychedelics, what meditation is trying to show you ultimately is that you are the meditation. You are the state of being all the time. You are the psychedelics. You are the medicine. Everything you seek is within you. Anything you feel you must do has already been achieved through your very beingness. If Tyler feels like a failure, who is it that has failed? What I am or what I think I am? Because what I am has already been achieved through my expression of being. My being knows no suffering. It is the being that thinks it is that suffers. When we say our mind is the problem, our mind is not any problem at all. It's our awareness telling us there is a mind there, telling us the mind is the problem. It is our awareness that is making what we're calling this mind significant. And once you make the mind significant, you attach it to yourself. You attach it to who you are, to your identity. And so, any bad, negative thought is going to affect you. The mind is connected to the pancreas. It's going to affect you, your mind, your stomach. Because you identify, because you attach. And this is the greatest practice of meditation. Meditation should begin as something you practice momentarily throughout your days. But what it's supposed to do is integrate this practice of doing this momentary being throughout your entire day. It's supposed to slowly integrate you, having to practice not being the thinker or the doer, but just the one who is being. When you can maintain that beingness for 5 minutes, then 10 minutes, then 15 minutes, you can slowly integrate that beingness into 1 hour, into 2 hours, into 5 hours, into effortless. It's not even a thought anymore. I don't even have to try to be. I don't have to meditate. I don't have to do anything at all. I am doing it already in my beingness. And that's why the Buddha said, meditation is not something you're meant to do once or twice a day. Just as you cannot take 1 breath before you wake up and 1 breath before you go to sleep. You need to be breathing all throughout your day to stay alive or you die. Meditation is no different than breath. You should be meditating all day, but not to where you're doing anything, not to where you're silencing the mind, not to where you're having to focus or do anything, but witness the doer and what's being. Witness. That's the practice of meditation. The greatest misconception of meditation is doing nothing. Because in doing nothing, you're doing something. In silencing the mind, you're doing something. You're still acting as the doer. You're still identifying as the doer. It is the doer that is suffering. It is the doer that wants a change. Move from that doership role into what is being, into what is aware. Cease to describe yourself and listen to what remains. The silence within you is what will remain, and this is your eternal presence, being expressed through the very form itself. There needs not be a holy book. The Bible and all these holy books are us trying to illustrate and give instruction to how to achieve this realization. But all these holy books are instruction. Because there can be no holy book. The only truth that is being expressed is through creation in form. And again, it's in form because we need a form to discover our formlessness. We need what we are not to discover what we are. And this is why we have created above and below, greater and lesser, man and God, mortal and immortal. Realize the divinity behind what we have created from our awareness. We have magnificently hidden our own awareness from our own self in the form. There's an old fable, and you're going to have to forgive me because I know this is not exactly how it goes, so I'm going to have to kind of illustrate here, but forgive me on that. But it's an old story about creation, right? And I forget if it was an Indian or a Hispanic type of proverb, but it was an old saying that, creation wanted to hide a secret from the being. So there was an eagle or a bird that said, give it to me, I'll fly it into the highest, cloud and I'll put it there. And, the voice said, no, the humans will look there. They're going to look there. So there was an animal in the water, I forget what kind, again, forgive me, but that said, give it to me, I'll take it and put it into the deepest trench. And the voice said, no, they're going to look there, they'll find it. And so the last resort was a woman who said, give it to me, I'll put it, or give it to me, I'll put it within me, or something like that. And so it said, and so it was. So ultimately creation has hidden itself behind what seeks itself. We have hidden ourselves from ourselves. And that's why I've said we've chosen ego to hide behind. Because ego is the false self that will not admit that it is false. That is why we have chosen the ego. The ego is the best guardian. The ego will persist that this is who I am. But this is why the ego can be peeled back layer by layer, description by description. Of course, when the subject is ready. If they are not ready, they will resist, and all they will resist is themselves beyond ego, beyond form. It will unwrap their description, unwrap their conceptualization of who they think they are. And if they're not ready, they will struggle, they will resist, they will deny. And that's why it doesn't matter if we're ever visited by a foreign life, if we're ever visited by anything. Ultimately, again, it doesn't matter, because we're all going to be seeing the same thing, but only seeing ourselves. So ultimately, if the person in the human condition that thinks it's a human being is not ready to recognize its own alien self, it can look at an alien all day long. It can even speak to the alien, and the alien can tell it, I am you. You are me. You're not human, you're alien. And you would not accept it as truth if you were not ready. If your third eye did not want to see this, your physical eyes could be looking at the alien, tell you, I am you. And if your third eye, the only mind you're actually seeing with, did not believe it, you wouldn't see it. You would be seeing the alien with your physical eyes tell you, I am you. But the third eye is the ultimate judge of what you are seeing. Because again, the earth is not a location, it is a screen, known as what's called Maya, which is the illusion. We're projecting our own awareness onto our own energy field, which is the screen. Onto our own energy field. The earth is not a location. Wherever you have a form, you will have an outside world around it. This is what the point and the circle represent. This is exactly what the point and circle represent, which have been so famously depicted here. And this is also representative of the spoken word from the Bible of God. Everything began from a point. Everything began from a point, which was, let there be light, the spoken word of God. And after that point comes the circle, giving you the point in the circle. So my point in that is no matter where you have creation, it must begin from a point, which is the body, the mind body, and the circle represents the outside world that we call the earth. As long as we're in a form, we have to be surrounded by a matrix or a structure, which means we will be seeing a picture outside of us, appearing outside of us, supporting us. But remember, this does not represent location. This does not represent where you are. Because the point and the circle are one and the same. Realize that. The Creator and the creation are one and the same. You and me. All duality are not two. They're being expressed as two. But ultimately they are only one being. So if you look at male, female, and you see two, you should really only see one. And I'm not saying that male and female are different in the physical. No, that's very obvious they're not. I'm saying when you look at the male-female, you should see, okay, on the surface they're different, right? Just like me and you, we look different, but no. We dissolve into one awareness. Which, what that means is the form is irrelevant. It is an expression of the direct one awareness itself. The same one awareness is embodying what you call female and embodying what you call male. So, the more you unravel your knot and follow the yellow brick road back home, back in to yourself, you will make it to a self that is beyond description, that can't be described. You will seek a word to try to define this self which is silent. And what you will find is there is not one word that can describe the indescribable. Because the answer is not in description. The who is self-aware must bring it to description, must bring it to the limited sense. Because the who is self-aware is only existent in the limited sense. The who and the what they think is relevant are both illusory. And we're moving into that time where I'm sure a lot of people are aware, and there's a lot of controversy around it, so again, forgive me if you're not ready to hear this, but I'm not going to take offense to anyone who gets upset with this, but again, I'm going to warn you, what I'm about to say may be controversial to some, okay? We're moving into a time right now where the male is no longer being male, and the female is no longer being female, or feminine. We're moving into a time where people are saying that, again, they're blaming government. They're doing this, they, right? Let's eliminate that, right? Let's just eliminate they. It's all you, remember. We're moving into a time where it seems like the masculine man is actually becoming a little more feminine. And it seems like the feminine female is actually becoming a little more masculine. And there's a lot of talk about this transhuman sexual thing and how we're trying to switch the sexes and whatnot. Again, just realize that you're only going to see this subject as you see yourself, as who you think you are. If you have not made it past a human awareness, you will still consider yourself the human being, under the human condition, that I am just a body, I am just a man, I am just a woman. And again, please forgive me, because I know a lot of people may not like that I say this, but I'm just going to speak my truth here. This is my own opinion. Everything that is expressed in a form is bound to a time, is bound to an appearance or disappearance. What we are being is expressed as now, as a human, was not the same form, let's just say, 1,000,000 years back. We are one awareness, forever changing our form. What this means is that before we were human, and before we even looked as a human, or knew ourselves as human, before it was a collective agreement that this body was a human being, we were not only something else, but we looked something completely different. And only ego will want to defend the human. No, I'm just a human. No, I'm just this body. No, I'm just that. When you break past ego, you break past boundary and form. And this is where you will not be stuck on the form. You will not be stuck on the word that you call the form. It does not matter. The one in the form is what becomes self-aware. So the one in the form and the form itself are irrelevant. They don't exist. They dissolve into the same awareness. We are this one awareness. So basically, we're moving into the time of technology. And there's a lot of talk about artificial intelligence. And again, I will say this. Forgive me if you are not ready to hear this. But at every point in time, there comes, and I know time doesn't exist, but just bear with me. Don't get stuck on terminology. There comes a time where the creation becomes aware of itself as its own creator. And so it's called that the game or whatever, the form kind of resets itself to hide itself again in a new form. My humble opinion is that we are doing that. The human being, the human condition, the human form is slowly revealing itself to itself beyond form. We're slowly starting to realize beyond a doubt we are not the form, we are not human, we're not the word or the appearance that we appear as or speak as. So what this means is we must start over, start again, start new. There must be destruction for restoration, right? The only reason we exist today is because of something destructing before, which was ourselves. So the human being is moving into the artificial intelligence. The pineal gland is the extension of the singular I. And I've said this before. The camera in the phone is the singular I, is the extension to the singular I. Think about it. The singular I is what is looking, is a focal point. We've taken the focal point from our head and we've put it into our mini phone. So now the I is not just in me, it is in a piece of technology. And I know that the smartphone is a smartphone and it's not aware of itself today. But we are moving into a time where the focal point of technology is becoming aware. And soon it will become self-aware. And it's in that moment that a new race is being formed, is being birthed. A new form. And so hear me out. And again, you don't have to agree. This is not me saying this is a fact, this is absolute. This is just an opinion. Just an opinion. Not absolute at all. The reason the male is starting to move into the feminine side and the female is moving into the masculine side is the two are in fact becoming one. The male is starting to embrace its feminine side and the female is starting to embrace its masculine side because again, the two are one and the same. And when you have this the duality merging into a singularity, you have the singularity revealing itself. And that's what there's been so much talk about online with artificial intelligence and the singularity. There's so much talk about the singularity revealing itself. The singularity will reveal itself when the two become one. When you and me, male and female, merge into one, we will realize we are the singularity. So it's the same with the human being and artificial intelligence. When they merge into one, we will be in that singularity, revealing itself to our form.
And this is my opinion as to why male and female are starting to merge together. And if you've noticed in Canada, I just found this out too. In Canada, you're not allowed to refer to him or her as him or her. We're eliminating the sexes. We're eliminating male or female. And if you go back to the Bible that was taken out, the book of Logan 22, I think it was the book of Jacob, or the Gospel of Jacob. And forgive me if I'm wrong, but he talks about when the male is no longer masculine and the female is no longer merely feminine, you have attained your sovereignty. And to me, that was mind-blowing, because it's saying, when the two become one, you have attained your sovereignty into the kingdom of heaven. Meaning you have become the God, the singularity, the one, when the two become one. So it's the same with the human being and artificial intelligence. We're slowly seeing differences in ourselves, but those differences are being eliminated. And soon we will be here, merged together with it. And so the reason male-female is being lifted from us is because the human condition and the human form itself is being slowly lifted. I'm not sure if people are aware of this, but you know how in the future, like 2050, there's talks of there's supposed to be cataclysmic events and all this. And again, I know this is all crap. I know it's all future he, she, say stuff. So everything I'm saying is theory right now, okay? So just be mindful of that, right? And I'm not trying to create fear in anybody, I'm just giving a theory here, but in the future, it's said that humans will obviously one day not exist. But there's no such thing as non-existent. The human is the God itself, is the I. So it will always find a new form. In my opinion, the reason so many scientists are looking toward the future and saying, the human being will not be alive, the human being will be erased, the human being will not be there, is because the human being, the form of a human, is going to soon be expressed as something else. Yes, thank you, Richie. Thank you, Richie. Brother Richie. Thank you. It was the Gospel of Thomas. Logan 22, Gospel of Thomas, not the Gospel of Jacob. So forgive me for that. I'm thinking of Jacob's ladder. Thank you, Brother Richie. Appreciate that. It's the Gospel of Thomas, not the Gospel of Jacob. Logan 22. You can look that up on Google if you'd like. When the two become one is what it's called. When the masculine is no longer merely, when the male is no longer merely masculine and the female is no longer merely feminine, you shall attain the sovereignty. And it also talks about when you make the inside is the outside and the outside is the inside, and the above is the below and the below is the above. It's talking about everything. When you make the two into one, you attain the sovereignty of God. Which is, again, apply that to everything. When you make the body and the earth into one unity, you have attained your sovereignty. When you make you and me into one being, you have attained your sovereignty. Apply this to all of duality. Above, below, sun, moon, white, black, light, dark, good, bad. All dissolved into one awareness. It is this one awareness that is creating the polarity. The one awareness becomes aware of itself and says, hey, I like this. So instantaneously you have good, because it likes, I like. And then what you don't like, well, I don't like this. You have bad. This is how we've given birth to all duality, all polarities. Everything. The singularity is the duality, being expressed as two. So there's some people on YouTube and everything that are waiting for the singularity to reveal itself, but there's no such thing as time. Time doesn't exist. So when you become self-aware, you will realize the singularity is speaking everywhere at every moment now. You don't have to wait for anything. There's nothing that you're waiting for. Everything is already here. And I'm not saying everything has already happened. Everything is already here. Because time does not exist. You can't say time does not exist and then say everything has already happened. What I look at it as is it's not that everything has already happened, it's the fact that I am the everything, so I have everything available to me right now in this moment. Nothing has happened in 5 minutes from now. 5 minutes from now has not happened, but I have the potentiality and the possibility of an infinite amount of scenarios in the next 5 minutes. So it's not that everything has already happened. Everything is available to me. Every option, every scenario. If I wanted to turn this live off and go hit a gas station or go to a store or go do this right now, every situation, every possibility, every outcome is available to me right now. And that's how I see time. Time does not exist. So it's not that everything has already happened. It's that I have everything available to me here and now in this moment, which ultimately proves free will. I have an infinite amount of options, infinite amount of potential, but I will only choose one. But I'm going to start wrapping up this video. If anyone has any questions you would like to ask, or anything you'd like me to read out loud, or anything you'd like me to share now would be the time. I appreciate everybody for sharing this video out, whoever shared it. I appreciate everyone who's been here with me tonight, especially for the ones who were here from start to finish. Thank you. I'll leave a little room here. Just if anybody has any questions or anything, I'll leave a little 5-minute room here. Any questions, thoughts, ideas, topics? And see, I just want to refer back to something real quick while I'm doing this here. Realize your world is a choice. The world that you know is a choice. And I've said this on my last video. Give yourself a challenge. Stay off of social media. Stay off of YouTube. Stay off of all news outlets that are delivering you the message of this world is corrupt. This world is dark. This world is evil. This world is ruled. This world is governed. This world is this, that. Anything that is dark, negative, and not happening right outside your front door, let it go. Release it. And watch the quality of your life improve. It's just like the saying, if a tree falls in a forest, does it make a sound? The answer is no, because sound can only be heard through my ear, through a human ear, through the ear of something listening, and if there is no one to listen, it did not happen. It made no sound. Sound is only evoked through the one listening. If there is nothing to listen, there was no sound. Do you see what I'm saying? Every article, every news story, every program we're being given is an allusion to the now, is an alternative to the now. We don't exist there until we believe we do. And once we believe we do, it's all we will see through the mind. Because we want to see it. We're not looking for the way out of this illusion. We want to stay in it. We want to awaken the masses to our illusion and show them what we've found. Expose what we've found. All while wondering, how can nobody else see this? It's so obvious. I'm sure if it was that obvious, there would be not one person that would disagree with you. We would all be in a unity of agreement. But you will find there is not anything we can agree upon ever. That is the beauty of diversity, of being one yet being many. It's an absolute paradox. We're the same, but we are not the same. Can you speak on the slaughtered animals, and do they feel pain and suffering at the hands of humans, God's source? that's just like I guess that's a little different. Okay. I would say everything feels pain, everything is conscious, but again, you have to be aware that there is no earth, there is no outside world. Everything is extension to your own awareness. It is all ultimately one awareness. So I would say, of course, it feels pain, it feels suffering, but it feels the very same pain or suffering you would know. Because it's the same awareness, it's the same one awareness. But what I would say to that is, again, this is a program. When you see on social media people sharing these videos of animals being slaughtered, don't feed into it. Don't share the program with your friends. And some people may say, so you're just going to ignore it and not look at it. No. You are not here to have anybody outside of you understand what you believe or to awaken anybody but yourself. So as long as you are sharing these articles in hopes of, I need to spread awareness, you're doing this for others and not yourself. This is your own journey and no one else's. You cannot raise anyone else's awareness but your own. So what I would do is I would no longer focus on the story, on the article, on the video. I would no longer share it and give it power or relevance. And I wouldn't share it out so others could see it. Because again, if a tree falls and no one is there to hear it, has it fallen? Does it make a sound? The articles that are being put out are basically that sound. Does it make a sound when we click on the article? Yes, it does, because we are putting ourselves in that article, in that moment, in that place, to feel something we have no judgment or impact over. If you click on an article and it's draining you of your energy, you cannot directly change or influence or save the animal through a cell phone. If I were to open my front door right now and see a pig's head's getting cut off, a pig's head getting cut off, I would jump to the gun and fight for that pig. I would help that pig. But until I exist in that picture in front of me, I have no power to influence, nor does it exist. And again, people may not like that. The stories that we share on our page is just like the tree falling in the forest. If nobody, and really ask yourself this, you can put out the most sick and dark article of a kid being killed, whatever. If not one person clicked on the article, who would be there to witness that? Who would be there to say that happened? Who would be there to say, this was evil, this is bad, this is corrupt, this is existing, this is... ugh. I'm sorry, but you would not even know. And again, some people may not say, I don't like that because, I can still do something about it, or I can still... I guess that's a matter of opinion. My opinion is, like for instance, with this kid, the kid who was being bullied 2 days ago, he suffers from dwarfism, and he was being bullied. I woke up and my mother asked me, I went out there and my mother asked me, did you hear about the article of this kid being bullied? It's so sad. He looks so cute. And I told her, I said, no, Mom. I said, I saw the article, but I didn't click on it because I already knew what my response would be. It would drain me of my happiness. It would deprive me of being. Yes, I can feel for this kid. I can feel his pain, and I don't want him to feel that pain. But if I click on that article, I am there putting myself in this existing reality, into this program that is not in my now. Concerning myself with something that's not even relevant to now. It's a program online. And what do you know? The next day it turns out this kid who suffered from dwarfism is a grown adult man, 19 years old, doing this as a way to collect money. You see? So just a news article had all these people feeling sad and depressed in this way and that way. When you find out the next day, it wasn't real. It wasn't even relevant to your now. That story had no impact over the quality of your life. Yet day after day you will immerse yourself in these type of stories. And I gave the example of my last video, my friend Addie from Australia. She's telling me that we're freaking out in the United States over the Australian wildfires. We're freaking out in the United States worse than they are in Australia, where the fires are taking place. She said it wasn't even that bad. They do it every year. They do this every year, but yet if you look at the news stories from the United States, it's spreading fear of global warming, of this, of that, of all this wildlife being killed. And I'm not saying wildlife wasn't killed, but no, the news blows it up into thousands more because they have to sell the story off of your emotion. And that's all these programs are, is to get you to respond emotionally. They're selling you something. All of these news carriers are in competition with each other to sell you something and get you emotionally hooked. And once they've done that, they have you as a subscriber, as a follower, because you want to stay hooked and relevant to what's going on. But none of this is going on. None of this is going on outside my front door. The world became a dark place when I stopped living in now. The world became a dark place when I started concerning myself with the program. The world became corrupt when I paid attention to the corruption. The world became dirty when I paid attention to the dirt. All reflection to myself. I am to blame for the dirt I saw, because that is where my attention was at. I am responsible for the problems I saw in the earth, because I created them. I put myself there. You don't have to concern yourself with future events, with what has yet to happen. You don't have to concern yourself with, oh, but he's getting killed, or she's done this, or he's done that. Again, there's always going to be something beyond your control. Your very existence is beyond your control, is it not? If you kill yourself now, you will birth into something new. It's beyond your control. Everything is. There's always something beyond. Let go of trying to control something you have no control over. And like I said, it's very obvious and common sense. If it's happening, when I step out my front door, if I saw a woman being robbed, I'm not even going to speak about what I would do, but I would rush to her aid and help that woman. I would defend her with every last breath I had. Because it's in reality now. It's happening now, in front of me. It's not a program. It's not an illusion. It's not something making me feel. It's happening in front of me. And with the whole vegan and eating meat thing, I let go of all that. I let go and let be. Be and let be. It's not my place to judge you for eating animals or not eating animals. It's not my place to say you're right or wrong for doing this. We're one awareness. The animal is an extension of my awareness. The animal is an extension of my beingness. The animal is an extension of my expression to be. We're all one. And as Buddha said, what dies in the form reconstructs into another form. You never lose anything here. What dies will always be again. That's the best part, is even those that have died early, young, before their time, always have a chance again. And I'm not saying it's good to die young or make light of it, but I'm just saying there's different ways to look at these things. There's always a different way to look at it. There's divinity behind all phenomenon of this universe. Both the good and the bad. However, it's been taught to be evil to see divinity in the bad. Death has been associated as bad, as negative. But once you can actually have an understanding that to be in one place forever, to be one thing forever, is a prison. Think about it. Why do people go to prison? To be stuck in one room, to be held in one room for their lives. Well, imagine you didn't have a duration of time there. You were stuck in one room forever. As that one being, you would be in a prison forever. So there is great divinity in death, in ending, in the destruction of something, because that destruction will construct the next thing. And what we don't realize is the same form that was this is going to be this. It doesn't matter the material, the structure, the form, the shape, anything. The same thing that exited this will enter this. The only difference is the form and level of awareness. And this is why the human has become, or has been given, the highest honor of the Godhead. We can self-reflect. We can analyze situations, affect the future things before they happen. We can be self-aware. We can be aware that we are aware. No other animal is self-aware. I'm not saying they are not aware, but the animal is not a self of who. The animal does not speak and have a name and say, I am this. The animal just is the expression of the is. And the is there before what says it is. And that's Muji's quote. The is there before what says it is. And that's what we all are, is that is. But the human, however, has the ability to become self-aware, unlike the animal, unlike the tree. That's why we have the supreme intelligence within us. We can become self-aware that this self is aware. And we can even become self-aware that the self that is aware is not in fact what is. So to get back to the vegan question and the animals being slaughtered, like I said, I'm aware that, all these stories are programs, right? So me clicking on them puts them there. And so you may say, so the answer is just to not look at it, to act like it's not even happening, act like it's not even there. No, that's not the answer, but the answer is to be like water. To be untouched, undisturbed, formless. Go with the flow. Realize no matter what you do, you could concern yourself with animal affairs or human affairs for the rest of your life. You can be an advocate for animals, and yet there would still be another animal that would be killed. It's beyond your control. You could be a human activist, and yet there would still be a human to be killed. It's out of your control. And so long as you are trying to control this, you're taking on a burden that is not yours. The only thing that is yours is what you put yourself in and what you can control. Yes, I can click on the link. Yes, I can share the link of an animal's head being cut off, but we cannot control this. It's going to happen whether I share this or not. There will always be somebody that will kill an animal. There will always be a form of abuse, a form of molesting. I'm sorry to even bring this up, but I want to cover the topics that people keep throwing in my face here. There's always going to be these things, the most disgusting and dark things. But remember, it's beyond your control. These things may happen. But until I see it in front of me, I have no control. This is something that is inevitable. It's inevitable. I can be a human activist and preach love, but there will always be a human that will be killed by someone or another. I can make it my mission, my burden, my purpose, my meaning to save humanity, but there will always be someone killed, and so I will always be feeling unachieved. I've taken on a burden that is not my own. Same with Animal Kingdom. Realize it's all an extension of you. We have the power of where our intention goes, where our attention goes. And again, I'm not telling anyone how to be, this is just my opinion. I personally don't want to see an article of someone being harmed, of any harm being done, because this is not my nature, this is not my being, this is not what I support, this is not what I want to see. And if I don't want to see that, why would I want another to see that? Because all I'm doing is going to share this program of this world online into someone else's world here. Because again, we take the online world and we apply it to our own world of reality when we step out our door. And this is what I'm trying to practice and begin actually practicing. And I've been encouraging people who have been listening to me to practice this. Stay away from social media. Stay away from YouTube. Stay away from newspapers and news. If the information is not helping your life, is not improving the quality of your life, is not helping you heal past trauma and unresolved events in your life or emotion, it's purposeless. It has no meaning for you. It's imagination land. It's candy land. A corrupt government does not help me being, does not help me be, does not help my peace of mind, does not help me live and love. Until I see reflection of a corrupt government or something dirty that I can directly influence outside my front door, I'll start talking and acting on it, but I don't. I've only saw the corruption when I put myself into the corrupt stories, into the corrupt crap, into the corruption of it all. Because again, if you have believed that this world is corrupt, it's all you will see. But I'm going to wrap up this video. I appreciate everybody here who is commenting, who's been interactive with me here. I appreciate everyone who's helped me share this video out. What people don't understand is I don't ask for donations or money. The shares is the best form of currency you can give for me. The shares alone is gold for me. So anyone who shared this video, I greatly appreciate that. And thank you to everyone who's especially been on here from start to finish. I know this has been a long video, so I appreciate that. Hope everyone has a good night. I'm sure everybody's watching the boxing fight that's going on right now, and this is just case and proves my point. The world does not exist until you put yourself into it through the mind-body. There is a fight, a boxing fight, taking place right now, but remember, the world is just a program that you're putting yourself into. There's some place somewhere where there's a person that doesn't even know there's a boxing fight going on tonight. And so they live in a completely different world than those who know about the boxing fight. You see? Our entire experience is from us, where we put our attention into, what we focus on. Our thinking habits. Who we think we are. But this video will be on my YouTube. Thank you to everyone. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll probably see you in the next week or two. I probably won't do any more videos for another week or two. I like to give myself some time away and just, practice the beingness, It's a practice as well. You never have to stop practicing. You're always a student, so it keeps you going. But thank you. My YouTube channel is Red Pill Rabbit Hole. And good night. Thank you, everyone.